everybody, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new Studio Monday video. Today I'm going to be featuring Lawn Fawn products and we're going to create an interactive pop-up card. So I started off by creating some images using some of the Lawn Fawn newest holiday stamp sets. I've got Here We Go A-WADDLING, and I also used the super cute Winter Village set. I already pre-colored these before I got into the video because I wanted to be able to save some time because I do want to show you how I created the entire scene. I just colored these images very simply with some Copic markers. I used about 2 shades for every image that I colored here. For the penguins, I did use 3 shades. I used some blues because I thought that'd be kind of fun and a little different than the black or gray tones that you usually see penguins in. Now, the pop-up element that we're going to be using today is the gift card pop-up die. Lawn Fawn is so well known for their interactive cards, and this pop-up die is so much fun to be able to use to create some really cute effects for your gift cards that are going in the inside of a card. So it's a perfect gift to give during the holidays. So as you can see on the back here, that's how the finished pop-up will look, and I'll show you how to use this die later on in the video. So I started off building my scene using some scene building dies from Lawn Fawn. These are the stitched hillside dies, and I've also got a piece of 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch watercolor paper. All of these elements and the background are cut from watercolor paper because I'm going to do some ink blending over top of them. I wanted both the texture and the ability to be able to add water on top, so that's why I chose to use the watercolor paper over regular cardstock. I'm starting off by ink blending the background panel that's going to be the scene behind my hillsides and my little village and my penguins, and I'm using some blues to create that nighttime wintry sky. So I'm using some cooler blues. I've got some tumbled glass, faded jeans, and I'm also going to bring in some chipped sapphire. Now the chipped sapphire is a little bit more in the warmer tone, but I thought that really looked nice and warmed up the panel a little bit. So I've got the 3 colors blended onto that background panel, and I'm going to take my distress sprayer and create water splatters in the background to add even more texture and interest to the sky. I wanted to make these more of a texture and not the really intense water spots that we really like adding with our distress inks. So you're going to see me lift off the color here, and I've got those great water splatters, but this is where I went ahead and turned it into texture instead. I'm bringing back in those distress inks that I had used for creating the color that was on that background panel, and I'm going back over top of those water splatters, intensifying both the color and also putting those water splatters in the background. So it's creating more of a texture and not that really intense look, which I really like, and I really think it adds a lot of interest to the ink blending. Alright, so to continue adding some detail to this background, I'm going to use this new Snowflake Stencil from Newton's Nook, and I'm going to apply texture paste onto the stencil to create some really cute dimensional and perfectly opaque white snowflakes. Now the texture paste I'm using here is from Ranger, and I'm spreading it onto my stencil using a palette knife. I've taped the stencil to my cardstock so that way it's not going to shift as I'm applying the paste, and I'm also being careful as I apply the paste because the stencil is fairly delicate, so I don't want to pull up on any of the delicate areas and mess up my texture paste or the stenciling or even the stencil itself. So I just spread that on to a nice thin coat, and then I'll remove the stencil off of my panel, and you can see the beautiful snowflakes that we have left behind. I love using texture paste on top of ink blending. I think it looks so cool, and I also love the fact that it does not reactivate, so it keeps its perfect white appearance. To add a little texture and also some depth to my snow, I'm going to be using the tumbled glass distress ink and add that along the edges of those hillside border dies. These hillside borders are going to serve as the snow for my scene, so that's why I cut them from the white, and I'm not adding too much shading to this because I want them to stay white but yet have a shaded appearance so they don't look flat. I also added a little bit of interest to those snow pieces by spritzing them with some Frost Shimmer Spritz from Sukaneko. Now I'm going ahead and taking my snowy hills, and I'm going to start putting everything together. My texture paste is dried, my panels are all ready to be adhered together, so I'm going ahead and doing so. I popped up the snowy hill off of the other snowy hill with some foam tape. Then I also applied that down flat onto my panel using some score tape. That's a really nice strong adhesive, and I know that this is all going to stay put because that score tape really holds things together nicely. Now I did add some patterned paper using a scallop die from Simon Says Stamp and that Knit Picky pattern paper from Lawn Fawn. I at first used a more busier pattern, but then I decided I wanted something with just a little bit more texture. So I went ahead and used a slightly less intense pattern paper for the accent there. And I also added some red Copic marker to the edges to help make sure that there was no white edges showing on the edges of that pattern paper. Now I wanted to pull in a little bit more red, so I'm bringing in my sentiment here and I'm curving it against the stitched hillside border die. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to use that stitched border die to create a banner. So I started off by taking my sentiment and inking it up onto some red cardstock after I had curved it against that die. Then I'll stamp it down onto the red cardstock and apply some white embossing powder over top of this, and then I'll be able to heat set that sentiment so we have a really nice, beautiful, bright white, crisp sentiment. I'm going to realign that border die with that sentiment. And it's not going to be perfect, but it gives it a good enough of a curvy border against this sentiment that it really looks nice. After I ran it through my Big Shot, I went ahead and ran that through again on the other end of my sentiment. And that creates, like I said, a really cute and quirky little sentiment banner to be able to adhere to the top of the card. I'm setting something heavy on top of that because I did use some liquid adhesive on the foam tape because I wanted to make sure that held down. While that dried, I used my Glitter Nouveau drops in the White Blizzard color, and I added that over top of all of the snow in the images. I also added it onto the snowy hillsides in like a very frosty kind of like dipped edge effect, and I really liked how that created a crystallized appearance to the snow. So we're almost done, but now we need to create the interactive pop-up element for the inside. So I've taken that die and I've run it through a piece of red paper from that Nitpicky pattern paper set. And now I'm going to go ahead and start folding the gift card holder on the areas where it has the score lines. So you fold it in half and then you take the little scalloped edges and you fold those over as well. These are the pieces that are going to get adhered to the front and back flaps of your card. I like scoring these really well with my bone folder to make sure I get a really nice crisp fold. And here you can see how this is going to end up looking once we have it all adhered together. Now that I have this cut, I also took again my Copic marker that I had used for the front of the card, and I'm putting some of that same Copic marker on the edges of the paper to hide that white core. I really think this finishes off the piece nicely and you don't have any of those white areas showing through. I'm going to start putting the piece together. So I've put adhesive on either end of the slot where the gift card will go. I put a lot of adhesive on here because I wanted to make sure it adhered together really well. And I went ahead and folded that so that way we have our gift card holder perfectly put together. Now I'm taking some score tape and I'm going to trim this down into some thinner strips because I only had the 1/4 inch tape. So I trimmed it down so it's about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm adhering that on either end of the scalloped borders that we still have left unadhered. Before I go ahead and attach this down, I'm going to stamp some sentiments from both the Here We Go A-WADDLING and also the Winter Village sets. I'm going to stamp them both in colors that I have on the front of the card. So first I've got Blue Violet that I'm going to go ahead and stamp this sentiment with. Then the other sentiment I'm going to stamp in Schoolhouse Red. Now I stamped it a little bit off center, this second sentiment, because I decided I wanted to add a few little hearts from the Here We Go A-WADDLING set on the end of the sentiment. And these are outlines, so I'll just go ahead and fill those in with some red marker, the same red marker that I've been using already throughout the rest of this card. Now I can go ahead and put my gift card holder in place. So I found the best way to do this was to first line up the fold along the bottom half of the scallop. So I only removed the adhesive backing on the bottom scallop. Now I can remove the adhesive backing on the top scallop and fold the entire card over top of that. And that really makes sure that this is lined up really easily and nice, and we have this really cool pop-up effect now. So now let me show you a close-up look of the card. You can see all the sparkle and shine and the fun elements that we have here. And then when you open it up on the inside, we have this super cute little pop-up effect, and I did add one of the extra images that I had colored into the center of that gift card holder. So you can see the fun dimension that we have, and this is really, really cute and a fun way to dress up a gift card that you're giving to somebody as a gift. So I hope this card has inspired you to try creating a fun pop-up gift card holder with Lawn Fawn products. If you enjoyed this video, here are 2 more that you might like featuring some Lawn Fawn ideas. Thanks for watching. I will see you again very soon with another video, and have a great day. Bye!